Welcome into the Boston Sports Summit. I am your host, Tim Barnett, and this show is presented by the Grid Network. I got a special guest on for a very special event that just happened on Sunday. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Ritt, a friend of the show from the Pesky podcast. Ritt, how you doing today, my man?
Man. Well, if you wanted to see some initial reactions, you could check out our podcast, our latest one, because the news broke 2 minutes before we were going live. And we waited, those 2 extra minutes because we wanted to do our due diligence and make sure this was legit. Yeah. Because it was there was a lot going on. Rob and Brandon and myself were distraught, irate. We laughed. I didn't cry, but
cried. Come on, admit it. Maybe not on the show, but after.
But no, it was crazy, and I was talking to one of our former co-hosts, OG George Sutherland, and him and I were saying how we thought it might have happened in the offseason. We never, ever thought it would have happened, not even at the trade deadline.
And exactly. And for those of you who somehow do not follow Boston Red Sox or what Major League Baseball, Rafael Devers was traded to the San Francisco Giants for, I would argue, 4 bums. Now, again, I'm just throwing that out there right now. Jordan Hicks, Kyle Harrison, James Tibbs III, Jose Bayo. I know I call them bums now. I just say that based on, the track record of trading Mookie for guys who suck. And we lost a first ballot Hall of Famer Mookie. We traded John Lester. I mean, the list goes on. Like I said, I'm still going. I'm going to wait. I'm going to see how, they pan out. I'm going to err on the side that they suck. But right now, even if you look at it, you got the 2 pitchers who we wanted in Jordan Hicks and Kyle Harrison, both with ERAs over 6 and 4 respectively. That's not winning baseball. On top of the fact too, that we were just talking about this off air. How many veteran players do we have in our lineup right now? It just doesn't make sense. And Bregman, he's gone. He's still injured. He's rehabbing. Basically, we have Jarren Duran. Carlos Narvaez is a rookie. We got the 3 rookies.
Snyder. And Toro has 3
Story.
years, and Story.
Yeah, so 3 or 4 out of our 9 guys are veterans. What? Less than half our lineup are veterans? That's insane. And I kind of understand. I kind of get the, tailoring to veterans that Cora loves to do. But to get back to the point, you traded Rafael Devers, a potential Hall of Famer in and of himself. You traded him for a bag of beans. I mean, what the hell are you thinking? And this just, as you said, you delayed your show on Sunday. We're doing your due diligence because you got to think there's no way that this is real. He couldn't do it now, right?
Absolutely. And it's crazy to sit there and think. And after the 12 hours, and I'm going to admit, I was tossing and turning most of the night thinking, trying to process it. And I didn't even toss and turn that much when Xander, left. I didn't lose no sleep really when the night that Mookie left. Because those there were Xander and even AC's told him, you would have been dumb if you didn't take that money.
Yeah.
And then Mookie, he wasn't signing with Boston.
Well, we weren't offering him anywhere near.
Exactly. So
I'm saying I agree. So I'm sorry to cut you off, but I agree with you that he wasn't going to sign here for the money that we wanted to sign him. But I would like to think, and especially with June Lee, and I think he brought it up too, that on NBC Sports Boston last night, he was that if we offered Mookie right around what he got, he would have signed. He would have stayed in Boston. But sorry, continue.
Yeah. So looking at those scenarios, I didn't lose as much sleep. Was I upset? Yeah, of course. Mm-hmm. Xander at the time was my favorite player. Mm-hmm. He was the first player I got to meet ever when I went to Fenway Park. Got my picture taken with him because it was Fan Appreciation Day, or fans on the field, whatever you want to call it, and stuff. So, but Devers, it's like, wait a minute, we just signed him for 10 years. I'm checking my calendar. Where'd these other 8 years go? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But once I started processing things, I broke it down a little bit in like 5 or 6, thoughts and I posted them on Twitter. But the return, we don't really know much. Well, we know Jordan Hicks, much better guy in the bullpen than a starter, like much better guy. And then the guy that we got sent, Harris.
Yeah.
He get
Jordan Harris here. Yeah. Or Kyle.
Yeah. Kyle Harris. You look at Kyle Harris. He has like a 4-point-something ERA, but if you take out his one bad start that he had all season, he's down to like a 2.72. So, and you can understand where pitching, if you have one bad start, it takes you a little while to bring your ERA down. Mm-hmm. And then Tibbs, who our friend George Sutherland is watching live right now up in Portland, he was taking
a day yesterday.
Yeah, he was taking Rapey a couple picks before we picked Montgomery. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of upside there, but we never got a chance to see what Braden Montgomery could actually do in our organization because he was shipped in the Crochet deal, and then we got a rookie ball pitcher in Bayo that I'm learning a little about him. He followed us the podcast back on Instagram. Of course, I reached out to one of my good friends, Johan Fran Garcia, to kind of because we've been recently with the Latin players trying to give them a voice and stuff on our podcast. We've had Johan Fran Garcia on. The password, he hasn't been on, but we talk back and forth with him, Freeman De Leon, because my big thing is I want to build relationships with the Latin players where they can trust our podcast, unlike other organizations where you're given a translator and you can't trust them.
Yeah.
Now, Tim, I want to ask you. You seen the press conference yesterday when they introduced Devers?
Oh yeah.
Did you see that translator? Top of the line. He was paying attention. He was very well spoken. He sit there and pause to make sure that he got everything correct. Unlike who the Red Sox had given Devers, and it's sad overall that it got this way. But I wanted to sum it up, and I told you this beforehand. A quote from Batman that seems to be very well for this. You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And the Boston Red Sox redundantly have made Rafael Devers the villain in all of this.
I vehemently disagree with that. Like I think the Red Sox as an organization are the villain. I mean, think about it. You and I were growing up during the heyday of not just Red Sox, but Boston sports. Mm-hmm. the Red Sox in 04 were the second highest payroll, 07 second highest payroll, 13, even though we all kind of think that they, I don't want to say lucked into a championship, but if you look at that roster and you're like, damn, really? They won? They did. They were the third highest payroll. And then obviously in 18, they blew everybody out by a wide margin in terms of being the highest payroll. And then all of a sudden after that, John Henry is just like, nah, screw you. I'm out. I'm done. I'm not out, but I'm not investing another dime. Everything has got to be under the luxury tax. We're not doing this thing. And to me, I look at it, it's funny you quote Batman. I'm looking at it more from the Breaking Bad TV show.
Mm-hmm. You can't keep getting away with it. You can't keep getting away with it.
They can't. Like this is what's driving me nuts. The Nomar thing, I kind of agree. Like looking back, we got Orlando Cabrera, we got Doug Minkiewicz, plug and play guys, a backup first baseman, or technically our starting first baseman if you want to throw Ortiz at DH, and then Orlando Cabrera plugs the hole in, bam, we're good. Better defensive shortstop, whatever. Then you move fast forward to Leicester, you got Yoenis Cespedes for half the season because you're like, nah, we're not going to sign him. He still went on to have a halfway decent career after that. Then, of course, fast forward to trading Mookie for a bag of balls, letting Xander Bogaerts walk, which everyone loves to. I feel like they want to rewrite history now because Bogaerts hasn't been good in San Diego. And everyone's like, oh, see, look, the Red Sox walked, got away with it. He sucks now. Like, what? Do you still want him for that amount of money? It's like, no, jerkwad. Like it's you're rewriting history. We could have had Bogaerts for $150, but we didn't. We want to give him a hell of a lot less, and so we let him walk for nothing. And now with Devers, I'm just sitting there like I was distraught. I was sitting there like I could barely sleep. I'm thinking to myself, am I living in reality? Like I woke up on Monday again being like, nah, there's no way. That like it was so absurd that you couldn't help but wake up on Monday and think, nah, that was a joke, right? That was just some random Twitter bot who didn't know shit. And, oh, come on. Like and then you go on Twitter the next morning or X. I still call it Twitter. You go on X, the next thing you know, oh my God, it actually is real. This is what they did. And it blew my mind. Like I'm calmed down. It's been 3 days now, but I'm still shocked. And I look at the front office now as just I'm trying to think of like the worst villain out there, the Red Sox organization, they're the emperor in Star Wars. Just that evil, maniacal, like it's all about the dark side, and that's John Henry. That's his organization to a T. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, I can't justify spending money to go see them anymore. I can't. And it has nothing to do with the players. It has everything to do with the ownership and front office.
Yeah, I'm glad. One, I'm down here in PA. At two, I'm glad that the only games I really see are minor league games, and I don't have to pay. I get press passes that when they play Scranton or when they play the Reading, their Double-A team comes down and play Reading. So I'm glad I don't do that. I do have a couple of questions. I want to shoot at you. Let's sit there and talk and break down. Maybe I shouldn't look at the camera and because my eyes can't make the alignment for the camera. But I would love to talk about the the smooths they tried to pull over on us, and everything when Breslow and them got to talk to reporters,
on Monday night.
Yeah, and it was some of the biggest BS I have seen or heard overall.
Mm-hmm.
And with Breslow, well, in hindsight, if I look back at it, maybe I should have went and talked, but I don't think it would have turned out different. Well, what do you mean? Like, if you would have talked to him and said, "Hey, I think Bregman's coming," like, I think Devers would have been like, "Okay, well, I'll sit there and work on DHing." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think if there was a conversation, overall, I think Devers would have understood. And there would have been an open communication of this is a possibility.
Exactly.
What are your thoughts? And let's bounce back and forth there.
Yeah. And absolutely. So to give you my thoughts, again, this just goes to an organizational failure, top to bottom, and well, not even bottom, like top to mid-range, because John Henry is an analytics guy. Yes, he came in here. Yes, they wanted to break the curse. Great, but at the end of the day, you listen to John Henry talk. He's not a personable dude. He got his start in tech and building, some whatever thing. That's how I forget off the top of my head. But regardless, he's a nerd. And then you hire the last two GMs, Kyan Bloom and Craig Breslow, both of which are freaking robots. I mean, you listen to these guys talk, and I don't care that Breslow played ball. He is the epitome of a nerd. He's the type of former ball player that never really fit in with the team. And now I can't speak to his actual time playing baseball. I'm not trying to say that his teammates hated him or anything like that. I just want to make sure that we're clear. Like, I don't know. But listening to him talk, he looks like he has zero personal skills. I mean, did you not hear too that when they landed in Seattle the next day, that if players had questions, they could go see Breslow on his own? They could schedule time to meet with him versus, him walking into the clubhouse just saying, "Hey guys, I know Devers, we had to do it, blah, 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 blah," and just speak to these guys like normal, like it's crazy to me.
And then when he let slip, they're looking for a long-term first base option. Well, what about Casas? You know what I mean? You're already threw him under the bus then, And I'm not saying, because I look at the Casas injury, and I think there was only 6 MLB players that ever had that injury come back and play. Only one of them was a hitter, and he didn't last very long. No. So, maybe they're looking at the medical side of that. But then you also throw AC under the bus also, and you're like, oh, well, I've been talking and communicating with AC about this, and letting them know what's going on, and he's been telling me what's going on, but he was up to date, with this. Wait, what? And you're a former player who played with Manny Ramirez. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying Manny was a cancer, but Manny was Manny, and Manny did whatever he wanted to, Oh, yeah. And how did he counteract that? He wrecked balls.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I mean, I think who was it? Zach Scott, former Mets GM on Twitter, on X. I think he was an assistant GM here at the Red Sox during that time, and I think he said on X, like, Manny used to ask to get traded all the time. And then we just said, no. And guess what? He won 2 World Series. He won the World Series MVP. Like, again, I don't care. Like, and trust me, I'm sorry, but do you really think that Devers is as bad of a personality as Manny? No, he's not. Like, this is what bothers me, and especially seeing Red Sox fans now, not the ones like us who are just like, what the hell? Screw you, ownership and front office. But all the Red Sox fans who are just sitting there going, yeah, see, Devers wasn't that good. No, Devers sucked. Like, Devers was just average, at best. They're trying to, like, again, rewrite history in order to make themselves feel good, in order to say that, oh, Devers wasn't an elite talent. I saw that right before we came on today. A Red Sox fan is like, we got to stop with this Devers being elite talent. Like, what? Like, he's top 10 in almost every hitting category since 21.
He was on pace to break all the Red Sox records for home runs and hitting. Like,
and it's like, I don't care that he's getting paid $30 million a year to friggin' hit. Guess what? If that's the thing he can do best, good. Put him there. Make him hit all day, every day. Like, that's ridiculous.
And then there was that one reporter that said, Devers said he would have played first base, but I'm staying there. Like, you're not going to bounce me, piggyback me. You know what I mean? And that's respectable. Exactly. You want me to learn first base? Okay, but don't take me off it. Exactly. There are people that need routine, and I think Devers is that person that needs routine, the same thing over and over again, so he can get used to it.
Yeah, look at the start of the season. 0 for 19 with how many strikeouts? And then all of a sudden, click, done.
And I think we were talking about that. I think I was on your podcast before talking about that.
Yeah.
And I think all that was the lack of spring training at bats.
Absolutely.
But you to sit there and everybody's like, oh, well, they told the Giants, he'll play wherever he needed. Well, yeah, because they talked to him beforehand.
And the Giants are like going to be upfront with him. They have no reason to say, we're keeping you at DH. We don't want you to play anywhere else. Oh, then, by the way, hey, our third baseman sucks. Can you go play there? Like, they're not doing that.
Well, who was it that said that? It was a former player. Was it AJ Przinsky? It was like, oh, yeah, that's like telling Judge, hey, can you go play? Can you go catch for us? Wait, what?
Yeah, it was AJ. Yeah.
Yeah. And you go look at all these former players like, Pap and then Ortiz. Ortiz like, oh, I reached out to him and he never answered me back. But then you go look at Pedro. Pedro goes, you don't just sit there and reach out. You go there, take him out to dinner, cook him a meal at your house. You sit down and talk to him. And Pedro's like, I asked the Red Sox.
Well, it's funny. It's funny you bring up Pedro because I want to get your reaction to this story that Pedro himself told. Take a listen.
I actually had conversations with Alex, and I said, Alex, I'm open to always be around and in these kind of situations, mediate. I remember that Lester at one point was disrespected by one of the officials in the front office, and he felt offended, and he was negotiating an extension with Boston, and he decided that he wasn't going to talk anymore. So I told, some of the guys in the front office, allow me to talk to Lester and let me see if I can get him back to the table. And all it took was for me to sit down and chat with Lester and talk to him. And he says, well, Pedro, I have so much respect for you that I'm going to forget about how mad I am, and I'm going to sit back down to talk. Even though it didn't work out, at least I felt, really happy that Lester was able to listen. And I'm pretty sure Devers would have done that if you send the right people to talk to.
I mean, it's funny that he talks about Lester being offended by Red Sox brass because in 2014, Pedro's been, retired by then. He was away from the organization, but he still reached out and was like, hey, John, like, I get it. Trust me. The Red Sox ownership, they're mental. They're insane. But trust me, it would be great for you to stay here in Boston. You love it here. They love having you here. I understand. Let's try to work it out. I mean, like, what's your take on that?
Well, first thing, I remember a Pedro interview a while back where Pedro's, he went when he was negotiating his deal, and he wanted to stay, and he said he learned his lesson. You don't ever tell someone how bad you want to stay there, know, and you can see Pedro as being a mentor. He still mentors Bayo today and everything. Every spring training, he's down there working. But it's all about communication.
It is.
It's all about communication, how you talk to people. You would think of all things, former major league players would know how to talk and handle players because they were once there. They know what they want to hear. They know how they want to hear it, but they don't go through with it. You know what I mean? It's redundant.
Yeah, you
want
Sorry.
But to sit there and see Pedro, go to Leicester and be like, hey, I was in your situation, but let's get back to the table. This is what you want, right? And it didn't work out, but it just shows how much more passionate Pedro, I think, is. David Ortiz, great guy, always going to be the face of most of the World Series that we've been in our lifetime.
Yep. But
then you also look at and wonder, because he was the one that got, was it 17-year-old Devers, to sign with him, mentored him in a younger day, 16, 17-year-old Devers.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, that image was going around. He's like 15 or something like that.
Yeah. He sit there and he was there for him, all this. But then part of it is like, yeah, but is Ortiz still on the payroll? He is. Like, okay. Are you just saying this to make the front office not look as bad, to try to ease it up on him and push it more on Devers and stuff? Like, well, it's crazy.
And it's funny you say that, because my thought is, I wonder if, because that one Ortiz quote where he's talking about egos getting in the way. Now, I know a lot of people, when you're reading that, are assuming that he's talking about Devers. I wouldn't be surprised if he was subtly throwing that back at Breslow. Because when you look at the situation again, just from the start of things, back in September, you had, I think it was Ken Rosenthal, put out a tweet saying that, over the winter, we're going to be doing X, Y, and Z, including trying to get Devers to play some first base. Or no, it had involved trading Casas. So they were already talking about trading Casas before, like in September of 24. So that already puts you in the mindset of, okay, who are they going to move? What are they going to try to do to supplement Tristan Casas? Because it's not like we have a Jeff Bagwell in the friggin' minors on his way up, like we don't have a first baseman. So then you fast forward to spring training, obviously everything with Bregman moving to third, Devers being like, no, like I think he's just acting like a child. Then he does move to DH. Let's not forget, he did cave. All right. He did succumb. He did move over to third base. And then, yes, the worst thing that could ever happen, Tristan Casas, who is already injury prone, blew out his knee with no solid first baseman behind them. And in order for Breslow to cover his ass, he goes to the guy that they moved off of third base and says, hey, it's not that big of a deal to move from corner infield to corner infield. And to me, it's like, well, you're taking the guy who is an awful defender at third base, and now you want to put him at first. You're gonna try to make this guy scoop balls and be stretched the way he, necessarily shouldn't. And then, of course, he said, then he just lays down the law. They fly out to Kansas City. That whole situation happens, followed up by Bregman hurting his quad. And then, and so if you look at it, the fact that Devers said no, then was like, fine, I'm going to do what's best for the team. I'll play DH. Then when you have an injury-prone first baseman, and you did make some good moves. You got Crochet, you got Bregman, but you never got a major league ball playing first baseman. You couldn't get that guy out on the market. Now, it's not like I went back and looked to see, which first basemen were available. But even still, you couldn't have traded for like a backup just to solidify first base.
Dom Smith was out there. And now Dom Smith's out there teaching Raffy how to play first base
in San Francisco. Exactly. So you have all of that. And then Devers finally says, no, I am done. You need to do your job as a GM. And I look at that as a player is actually holding the front office accountable for not doing their job and using me as the ball player to cover their ass. So that's why, not for nothing, I stand with Devers today and when this story broke.
Yeah, to go back a little bit, we actually had Fabian Castoreno, who used to be a minor league coach in the Red Sox organization. Good friend of the show. He's also our translator for the Spanish players, for the Latin players. And I asked him, I said, so how hard is it, to move somebody from third base to first base? And he's like, a lot harder than what you think. It's just not moving across the diamond. It's the complete opposite side, of the field. There's a lot more stretching involved. Like it's a lot and stuff. So, to go and I'm gonna dive right into, them asking Christian Campbell, they went, and in my opinion, they went and asked a young, naive kid that would do anything for the team because he's, a rookie, to learn first base. And he goes, okay, he doesn't know any better. Yeah. Just so if he is bad at it, and then they can say, well, see, at least Campbell's trying, Devers, and I think that's why they asked Christian Campbell. And I think Devers, and he might have been upset, but I don't think he was upset at Christian Campbell for trying. I think he was more upset at the front office for trying to make this kid look like an ass.
Yeah. And I agree.
And to trickle down to try to make Devers look like an ass.
Yeah, to say there's a team player, which at the end of the day, that whole, and again, talk about, this is the other thing too. Talk about the smear campaign that came out right after, being like, Devers, told Campbell, don't do this, which I immediately read that and was like, that is a PR move by Breslow and the Red Sox front office. And sure enough, there it was. It came out, yesterday night, saying that never happened. And I agree with that. It is crazy. And I go back to, I go back to Ron Washington talking, in the movie Moneyball, how they made a joke out of this talking to Scott Hatterberg, which I wouldn't be surprised if the conversation kind of went down that way, saying first base is incredibly difficult, and Brad Pitt being like, oh, no, it's not that hard. Ron Washington, no, it's incredibly difficult. Again, it's not simple. Not only is there stretching involved, not only are you trying to field the ball totally differently, but also, too, it's a whole dynamics of playing. What are you going to do with a runner on second and the ball's hit out to right field as a first baseman? You're going to be the cutoff. You have to know where to position yourself to the field and to the catcher. So, again, there's so much more mental gymnastics that you have to learn going from position to position. And it's amazing to me that this team with this ownership is still acting like freaking small ball. I mean, again, not to go back to 2023, we traded Mookie, we lost Sander, and the only hope, for the love of God, that we had was, can we just keep somebody from the 2018 team being Devers? And I've said this before. Red Sox fans stood out of Fenway Park during the Winter Classic in 23, yelling at John Henry, and I have the video, so take a listen.
John, pay Raffy!
Hey, anybody.
Under the age of 40.
Devers is worth it, bud.
Raffy's worth the money, just saying.
Yeah, like he was worth the money. And then 2 days later, there it is. There's the $331 million for 10 years. And you can't tell me that the fans didn't pressure John to do that. Like, it's ridiculous. And I just look at it going, this organization is an absolute joke. I mean, part of this is, yeah, they want to stay under the luxury tax, but doing some digging, the Red Sox brought in $520 million last year. Okay. That was fourth most in Major League Baseball. They are valued as an organization, according to Forbes, $4.8 billion as of 2024.
And what did they buy them at?
Oh God, like 300 million.
Yeah, it was something. And the thing of it is,
2002.
It's all him and his portfolio. That's what they want to work on. And it's funny, everybody's talking about all the renovations that they're doing around Fenway Park.
660 million is the purchase.
Yeah. But everybody wants to talk about all the, renovations, the music venue, the apartment, the sky rises, all those going around Fenway Park.
Yep.
Who's the person doing that?
John effing Henry.
His wife is the one that's doing, going through all this with, his what do you want to call it? The incorporation he has.
Oh, yeah. Fenway Sports Group.
Yeah. And what's all that for? It's to sit there and make him more money by spending, it seems to be, the least amount of money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, and again, sorry, I just sorry to cut you off, but to finish the point here.
Yeah.
They made $520 million, fourth most in Major League Baseball. They operate at $120 million, and that's just operating. Mm-hmm. The team payroll, if you include the active roster, the players who got injured, the dead money, players who got retained, and then the minor league money, the total team payroll is $188.5 million, which ranked 11th according to Sport Track. Now, clearly, teams that spend money win. It's the most blatant thing in Major League Baseball. And everyone wants to throw Moneyball at me and say, oh, well, the A's, look at the A's. They don't spend money. Okay, they had Barry Zito, Mark Mulder as their 1-2. They had Miguel Tejada and Eric Chavez manning the left side of the infield. I'm sorry. That lineup was stacked. There was a reason why they won 20 straight games. They had a hell of a pitching rotation and a very good roster. They just cheaped out on the rest of the roster. So, again, it drives me nuts that they're building all these new skyscrapers and all the add-on, the music hall. They want to add on to Lansdowne. And I'm just sitting there watching this going, we're screwed. We are screwed because this a-hole is all about money. And by the way, how old is John Henry? And tell me, John, are you going to be able to take that money of yours when you're dead and gone? You're not. So do us all a favor, sell the damn team.
Me personally, I'd rather leave a huge legacy. You know what I mean?
He's doing, but I
but he's leaving a legacy for the wrong right now. After 2018, what have you done for and I hated when he was kept talking all over and over and over again. Well, if you look at the past 24, the 20 years or something like that, we had the most championships. Okay, but what about the last 7 years?
I'm so glad you brought that up, because I have the exact quote from Sam Kennedy. Shout out to Matt McCarthy on 98.5, asking Sam Kennedy straight up, you traded away a first ballot Hall of Famer in Mookie Betts. You traded a potential Hall of Famer in Rafael Devers, and you kind of got nothing for either of them. And yes, I agree. I stand by Verdugo, Wong, Jeter Downs, bums, all of them. But here is Sam Kennedy's response to Matt McCarthy's question. And by the way, it is a little sped up because Sam Kennedy's a friggin' blowhard. So take a listen.
Each and every player decision is its own individual decision. And as I said at the outset, it's really, really hard when we either can't line up with our own players who become free agents, or we don't line up on extensions. Obviously, very different circumstances. But I'll put our record up against anybody else's in Major League Baseball over the last 24 years. We're incredibly proud of what we've built here. We've got more trophies and banners to show for it than any other organization in Major League Baseball, and we are so proud of that.
It's first of all, you're now talking like the friggin' Yankees, saying that we got 27 titles. You're also talking like the Boston Bruins, who in their press conference, end of the year press conference, were basically like, yeah, well, since Don Sweeney was hired in 2015, we have the most points. We're tied for the, most wins. I don't care. And it's not like you won the title 3 years ago, or you won the title 2 years ago, and you can kind of rest on your laurels there. No, you not only won the title 7 years ago, but you have then systematically dismantled that team in a spectacular fashion, and they were all young. So it's kind of just, his arrogance of, 24 years, Bill Belichick, when somebody questioned him about the team's success, back in 2023 or 22, and he's like, check my last 20 years. It's like, I don't care about 20 years. I care about what just happened to me recently. Listening to Kennedy, I mean, do you agree?
No. But you want to sit there and talk about the last 20 years, that's fine. But what about the next 20 years? You want to talk about, the Devers didn't align with our morals and stuff like that. Well, if that's the case, isn't it AC's job to sit there and keep him in line? Yeah. AC, how many times did I sit there and hear repeatedly that, we got to put the best lineup out there? Well, we leave the league in errors, and you keep playing people out of position, like Campbell today in center field. Campbell's not a center fielder. I hate to tell you that. Like you got, and you keep saying overall, we've had the possibly best center fielder defensively in all Major League Baseball, Ceddanne Rafaela. Okay.
Why is
so? Yeah, he needs a day off. Okay, then put Jaron Duran over there.
Yeah.
Put and then put Rep Snyder in. Let Roman Anthony get used to the Green Monster.
Exactly.
Because Roman Anthony's not a center fielder. He's a corner. He's a corner infielder, but not there at Fenway Park. Mm-hmm. Let Campbell play second base like he's been playing. Let him learn and make mistakes, learn from them, but let him be a second baseman. There was a reason why you wanted him to be opening day second baseman. You know? Oh, yep. wait a minute. Not only that, well, we traded Devers, so now it gives us more roster flexibility. Okay, well, then put Hamilton, if you need to get him some reps, put him at DH. Like, don't.
I don't like that, though. Hamilton's a runner. He's not a hitter.
Yeah, I'm just saying to keep the best lineup out there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We don't have Willier right now, so put Campbell at second base, keep him at second base,
Yep.
Story for June. I'm waiting for July to come because if you go back and look, Story has a really hot month, and then you get rid of him. In fantasy baseball, I got rid of him too early. And like he's streaky. He'll go for a whole month. As soon as July comes in 12 days, you're gonna go back and see the real Trevor Story.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
and that's the funny part too about these sports that have extremely long seasons. Like basketball, hockey, baseball. It's all of a sudden you get a guy who is on this hot streak for a week, a month, however long, and after that first game or second game, you have everybody in the fan base losing their minds, being like, Trevor Story, see, I told you he was great. And it's like, literally, I could pull your tweets up from last week and you were saying to DFA the dude, like, stop, like, let's wait. Let's see this out. Cause the guy's finally healthy, in his Red Sox, wearing a Red Sox uniform.
Our one co-host kept saying DFA Trevor Story. And I'm like,
I was getting to that point.
Yeah, and I'm like, well, who do you got to replace him? Who?
Yeah.
They said the same thing about Connor Wong. What catcher do we have? Are we gonna bring Blake Sable back up? Like our next great catcher we have in the system is down in High A with Brooks Brennan and Johan Fran Garcia. Like, so it's either you deal with Connor Wong as a backup now, and hopefully he puts some things together, or or not. Like, I am ecstatic with Carlos Narvaez.
Oh yeah.
Like, I never in a million years thought, he was going to take over this, role. And Connor Wong getting, hit in the hand was a blessing for him, because then he got his opportunity and he hasn't turned back at all. The only bad part is he needs a day off for rest, and we got to put Connor Wong back there.
Yeah, no, and that's, Boston knows all too well about a blessing in disguise when it comes to injuries, a la Tom Brady.
Yeah, and to touch back on your basis, Tim, when you're talking about the salary cap and everything,
yeah,
look at how our team's constructed now. Oh, we're gonna extend Ceddanne Rafaela for, was it 8-9 years, 90 some million, bargain. The same thing with Bayo, it's looking at all these. It's like, okay, well, when are you going to extend Marcelo Meyer, Roman Anthony, so they can say, oh, well, we did something. You know what I mean? But they're getting at the cheap value instead of a peak value. You know what I mean? That's their goal. Like, that's the problem with this Red Sox organization, is that they have, and this is kind of why, any single player who plays for the Red Sox, and if they piss a fit, they do whatever, but it's attacking the front office and ownership, I'm going to be right by their side, hand in hand, ready to go. Because the fact that the Red Sox front office pissed away John Lester the way they did, they pissed off John Lackey. We can have our back and forth about John Lackey and like all these other, and some of these other players, but
They pissed him off. They traded Mookie Betts because they refused to go to his number, which I don't know about you, but having a first ballot Hall of Famer for, what was it, $300 million, $350 million looks pretty damn good right now. Seeing how Ohtani's getting 700, Juan Soto's getting 760, Vlad Guerrero is getting
That's 5.
Like, I'm sorry. Betts' deal looks phenomenal nowadays.
And the Crochet deal, I have to say, was a steal, because if you look the way starting pitching is 3-4 years from now,
oh yeah,
you're going to be paying 40 million a year for a starting pitcher, and it's not even going to be an ace. You're talking about a 2 or a 3.
Exactly. So that's why, and the funny part is, when you look at I forget who tweeted this out, but they were saying that the numbers or the computer looked at Devers' contract and his output and thought that was a bad deal. And to me, it's just like, this is why I hate numbers. I hate nerds. I hate analytics. Get it out of my sports. Get it out, because you have to deal with guys like Kyan Bloom, like Craig Breslow, who can't speak normal human. They have to speak like freaking robots. I mean, that video I just showed of Sam Kennedy, he's looking down the entire time, just kind of like, hey, yeah, that's, we won 4 World Series. Hey, like, looking down like a freaking moron. And I think partially too, because he is a liar, which that clip of him when he was called a liar. Do you remember that? Did you hear about that?
No.
Oh my God. Here's Sam Kennedy when pressed on being a liar, by fans.
If you think for 1 second that we aren't passionate, committed, dedicated to the Boston Red Sox, you're wrong, you're a liar, and I'll correct you on it, because it's total BS.
I don't know, Sam. You're the liar right here, because you're not passionate. You don't care. And everything that you have just done shows. They always keep promising us, next year, when we get the big 3 up into the majors, then we'll go for it. When we get these things, then we'll go for it. You're not, because you have robots, because you have these quote unquote computers telling you that Rafael Devers' contract is terrible. And I'm sorry, I would pay that in a heartbeat every single day and twice on Sunday for his caliber of a bat. You know what? Let his defense be damned, because we're real baseball guys. We understand the sport, and how to play it. What these guys do, what Driveline does, they're just a bunch of nerds who are trying to put numbers into a sport into sports in general, that just doesn't work. And it never will work. It's just, we're so hyped on it right now that we're gonna have a reset, and I'm gonna be the guy on the front lines, waiting for that day for everybody to realize, now we're gonna get analytics out of you.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the Driveline people at all.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell Jim Rice isn't a big fan of them.
And I love that was phenomenal.
Yeah.
What he did.
But I am a big fan because Fabian Castorino and what he does, Castorino Baseball Development. You show him your swing,
yeah,
and he breaks it down and shows you how to correct it, and that's it. Like, and then you go do it. Like, and he's worked with Jorge Polanco. He's worked with Bobby Witt Jr. this offseason, Alec Bowman, Hayes from the Pirates. Like, he's worked with a lot of people. Like, and they're doing Garcia from Texas. You know, so he's very successful, and he doesn't have to tell you, you know, this and that. No, he just looks at your swing, and you're like, oh, you're dropping your shoulder. You know, bring it up, and this is how we fix it, and let's go. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, that's the way it should be fixed, and it's horrible, like how to see, you know, everything going to that way. And another quick point, Tim, you know, you want to talk about front office lying, like when Roman Anthony and the Woo Sox were playing the Rail Riders 2 weeks ago before Roman got called up.
Okay.
I got to speak to Roman, and you know, I put the interview out there. It's on our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
If you get a chance, check it out. It's just a 3-minute clip where I got to ask him a couple questions. You know, where's Dawson Torpedo bat? You know, some Marcelo Meyer moment, and then I was like, so the front office said that, you know, they told you some things to work on while you're down here and stuff. You know, so what are some of those things? And he blatantly says they haven't talked to me since spring training, like about working on things. So, you know, right there, and the only reason I asked that is because there was no one, like, they were on a road trip, the Woo Sox.
Yeah.
Since they made that comment, they didn't get a chance to go and, you know, talk to him. So I'm like, what's going to do? You know, tell me, you know, no comment? And then that's fine. But no, he answered it, you know, and he was very true. He's very professional, you know, and you can see that, you know, when he's there. But so that just shows you right there that, you know, they all they do is they try to cover each other's back. It's like working for a corporation, you know, us common folk, you know, managers are going to align with supervisors, like team leads. They want you to all be on board. And if one person's out of line, you're the fall guy now. You're taking the hit, you know, and that's exactly the way it is. And it looks like for the Red Sox.
Oh, absolutely. And the problem is the fall guy is Devers and Cora. Listen, am I, you know, on the, you know, I'm on the fence about Cora. I mean, I love the dude. Like, I think he, you know, when he's given a baseball organization, like a team that actually wants to play baseball and play proper baseball, not this nerd analytic nonsense, I think he can be a very successful and a very good manager. But yeah, because it's funny you say that, because literally Craig Breslow, probably right before your interview, came out and was like, yeah, you know, we still need, you know, Meyer or Anthony to work on a couple of things down there. That's why he's not called up yet. When you, myself, all of Red Sox Nation's screaming at the top of our lungs when we were in our slump in May, get his ass up here. Like, you know, and so it's just, it's funny, you know, just how this whole thing has gone on. Just to go pull up some comments real quick. Fade lines. Harrison, I think, will pan out very nicely. Good stuff. High potential minus his one bad start in LA. That's expected ERA on the season was 280. Still should have gotten more for Raffy, though. Okay. Listen, Fade lines. Thank you. I appreciate the comment. Hope you follow, like, share, subscribe. Expected ERA, please. I don't care about expected. That's just some more nerd talk, analytics. It's not an expected world that we live in. It's the actual outcome that we live in. So, though, I do appreciate your comment. Thank you. And then frequent commenter Sports Mom, enjoying the conversation and the various views on the Red Sox. Thank you for that. And again, it's so bothersome to be a fan and to really care, because we're obviously football reigns supreme. Patriots are number one. Then you have the fight between the Red Sox, the Bruins, the Celtics. I would think that the Red Sox, no matter what, they're always going to be that number 2 spot for most Boston fans, because there's something to the Red Sox. There's been this aura with this Red Sox for a very long time. And, granted, I was 12 years old when we won in 04, which was fantastic. Don't get me wrong. I experienced a little bit of the, curse of the Bambino. I remember it like it was yesterday, how that it meant something. Like, yes, the Patriots won in the 2001-02 season. People in Boston were going crazy. It was fantastic. But then when the Red Sox won in 04, it was next level. Like, it really meant something. And that's why, fast forward to today, where I'm sitting here on the verge of renouncing my fandom, which, by the way, I will never renounce my fandom, but the moves consistently, it's just so hard to like this team, to cheer for this team. You know what I mean?
It's crazy because I felt the offseason moves for the first time in a long time.
Yeah.
Were very, very well. Like, I wasn't a fan of signing Chapman.
You and me both.
But this is a Chapman that, I haven't seen this side of Chapman for a long time. You know what I mean? He's gave up 2 runs all season.
Mm-hmm. One blown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but no, you sit there and you trade for a Crochet, you extend them. Mm-hmm. Extending them, that's the big part.
That was the kicker. You could trade for him, sure, but then to get him extended, I think was
and what's really funny was they're like, once the season starts, we don't want to, we just want to pitch.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, how about you pitch this money over this way? Oh,
done.
Mm-hmm. We got Bregman. We got Bregman. I honestly didn't think we were getting Bregman just for the fact of, AC wanted him. Breslow said no.
Exactly.
Yep. And 30 million, man, his numbers at Fenway, I thought it was 30 a year.
Well, regardless, it's 3 one-year deals, but yeah.
Yeah. But, looking at it, it's like, man, I picked him to be AL MVP. Before he got hurt, those numbers were fire.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was worried about, okay, Bregman's not there. Is Raffy's numbers going to start dipping because he has nobody to protect him? And then, Raffy kept chugging along, doing his thing after he got called to the principal's office.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, man, wait a minute here. We're putting some wins together here. Then all of a sudden the starting pitching, wait, we're getting 6 innings? We don't see 6. We don't see 6 innings. I'm thinking we don't have starters. We're just going out with a whole bunch of relievers throwing 4 or 5 innings.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Except for Crochet, and he pumps out 7, 8 innings. And there was hope there. And then, you trade Devers
on Father's Day after you swept the Yankees.
The Yankees, the only team to do it this season. And I'm going to laugh if we're the only team to do it all season.
Right? Could you imagine how much of a bad look that would be if we're the only team to sweep the Yankees all season, and the same day that we trade Devers, the same day we sweep the Yankees is the same day that we trade Devers. And just to add insult to injury, it was at Fenway and it was on Father's Day, no less. I know you told me off air, but what was one of your Father's Day gifts there?
Well, it was a birthday Father's Day. I got a Crochet jersey I got on now, but one of them was because I'm like, there's no way we got Raffy for 8 more years. I'll take the green City Connect Devers jersey. And now that is, thank God it doesn't have the name on the back, but that goes over in my left side of my hangers with my, Mike Lowell, my Daisuke Matsusaka, my Betts, Benintendi, and Bogarts jerseys.
Oof.
So my all-star JD Martinez. So, man, it's just they're over there because they're all alone.
Mm-hmm. I got a 2018 World Series Chris Sale jersey. So it's like that jersey is the only jersey. Nope, that one. That's the only jersey that I have that I think the guy actually finished his career in Boston out of all the other jerseys that I have. Otherwise, it's I mean, and you're not alone. I mean, I've seen several videos of fathers getting Rafael Devers jerseys, and they were all posted on Monday because goodbye, Rafi. I mean, and I swear that, there's a reason why, like, not for nothing, I named this show the Red Sox Measuring Contest. It's because I wasn't sure if I could name it the Red Sox Pissing Contest. Because that's what this was. At the end of the day, this came down to Devers and his ego versus Breslow and his ego. And not for nothing, yes, Breslow does have the upper hand. He can deal him like he did. And of course, John Henry was involved because this was a massive salary dump. The funny thing is, though, the article from June Lee, did you read that on Yahoo Sports?
No.
So June Lee wrote this article called Inside the Absolute S Show that led to the Boston Red Sox trading Rafael Devers. Now, of course, it starts off the premise, sending Devers to San Francisco for the return, then goes into the timeline, getting Bregman, saying no. But then it goes into the front office and losing cohesion, right? Because he learned a lot when researching for this article, which you're sitting there going, you can only get this amount of information if people want to talk. And clearly people want to talk when it comes to Craig Breslow in the Red Sox, because one of the lines that came out was about how Craig Breslow has grown increasingly insulated. And I know he talked about it, earlier today, and he's like, no, I'm not insulated. But when you listen to the guy talk and you kind of, as we've discussed here from the interview on Monday night, it doesn't surprise me that the dude has become more and more insulated. When he was in Chicago with Theo Epstein as the GM and Breslow was the assistant GM, Breslow was living in Boston the entire time. He wasn't in Chicago mixing it up, talking, standing by the cooler, talking baseball with other people, talking baseball with Theo in person. No, he was in Boston. Like, that is a telltale sign right there that you're not even in the room and you're the assistant GM. Like, that doesn't make sense. Then
that would almost be like if you're at a job at a factory and you're the team, you're the supervisor and your team leads at home, working from home. Like, wait, I need you to write a review on such and such. Well, can't you do it? I never met the guy. You know what I mean?
I would say that the team lead is still writing that review from home.
Oh, probably. Be like, yeah, well, I never met the guy, but let's give him a good review.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the funniest stories I think that came out of here was so the discontent intensified. So, quote unquote, the discontent intensified in May 2004. Breslow brought in a sports consulting firm, Sportsology, to conduct an organizational audit. Because audits are going to go real well with front office staff. And so The stated purpose was to streamline baseball operations. In practice, it triggered a wave of firings and accelerated the marginalization of some of the longest tenured voices in the building. And now this isn't a part of it, but it is a great story. During one of the internal team Zoom meetings earlier this season in 2025, I'm sure you and a lot of people have heard this story, but it's fantastic. The Carl Moshe, I think is how you say his name, the Red Sox scouting supervisor and team employee since 2017, thought the call had ended, and it hadn't. A meeting wrapped. His voice cut through a quiet moment. Thanks, Brez, you effing stiff. Fine. Like, at least I don't feel like the crazy person every time I listen to Craig Breslow talk. Like, he sounds like a stiff. I mean, am I wrong?
No, he sounds robotic. He sounds like he's scripted. And Tibbs just got his first hit in the Red Sox organization. Just throwing that out there.
What's he, 1 for 3?
Probably 1 for 4.
Yeah.
But he sounds robotic. He sounds AI. Like, and I really think, and I hate these Zoom meetings because I guarantee you that they had 2 screens, and on the second screen was a list of options of how to answer certain things.
Oh my God.
And I swear to God, like, you rewatch that, and there was the same answer over and over again. Like, I swear Breslow might have went and got a text. Answer 4. Oh, well, we're going, through this. Answer 6. Oh, just reading it verbatim.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people over and over again were getting a similar or same response. It's, dude, all I want to know as a fan is, are you trying your hardest to win?
No.
That's it.
I can answer that for you. No, they're not.
That's all I want from a team.
Exactly.
I'm honestly waiting for the news to come out that, Boston sports, we already traded Marshawn. We traded Devers. When's Jaylen Brown gone then?
Well, I think we get a hell of a lot better return for Jaylen Brown. Let me tell you.
Well, we're gonna be keeping Porzingis and hurt Porzingis and aging Drew Holiday, but we're gonna get rid of Brown.
Well, and here's the thing, like, I'm a fan. You're a fan. I'm a fan. Like, that's straight up, no questions about it. I want our teams to win every single year. Boston sports through and through. I want them to go out and try to win, make the effort to go and try to win every single year, whether that comes from trades, free agency, bringing your guys up through the system that, you're starting off young, you're not putting a lot of pressure on them, and then they can find their way, find their groove. Next thing you know, they're superstars. You re-sign them. All the ways you do that. That's what I want from my teams. But when you have Red Sox staffers describing the situation as an absolute S show, then you have the same guy who wrote this article after he published it come out and talk about how AI is used to interview people through not 1 round, not through 2 rounds, not even through 3 rounds, but 5 rounds of interviews for one position have been all through AI. Now, I don't know if so let me preface this. That was his reporting, post this article coming out. Then I'm listening to, I think it was Zolak and Bertrand today, then had a caller who called in saying, I've gone through the interview process recently, and it was AI. I never spoke to anybody. Now, again, I'm not saying that is true, that guy went to interview and had AI experiences. This guy, June Lee, I believe his story. I don't know if he's talking to the same guy, whatever. If that's the case, you have robots on top of robots talking, and it's not going to work. It's unsustainable. And when it comes to winning, this team clearly is not focused on winning. And that's why, like I said earlier, it makes it harder and harder and harder to root for this team, to cheer for this team. I'm going to say this. I will always be a Red Sox fan. I will always cheer for the Boston Red Sox. But if you're going to have me spend my hard-earned money on the most expensive ticket in Major League Baseball, the most expensive food, the most expensive beer, the most expensive gear, I'm sorry. You're out of your mind. I can say I'm done with.
There is a shining light, just because at least they're going to get some fair wages, probably.
The strike.
Yeah, you can't have a baseball game if you don't have people like that. Now, granted that there's going to be a lot of automated, self checkout stuff like that, but who's cooking that food for you? Mm-hmm. Who's out there in 96-degree weather? Popcorn, get your cold beer. No, and I'm not going to want to sit there and get up in the middle of an inning to go get stuff.
Exactly. And then you have to wait in line. It's just like going to the bathroom. You have to wait in that stupid line. You try to find the smallest line. And that's where, I just saw that the workers at Fenway, I think Amrak, right? They just authorized a potential strike. Now they're not going on strike because they have another week and a half. I mean, they have until the 27th, a week from Friday to get a deal done. But not for nothing with the way and again, I feel bad for the fans. I feel bad for the players. They have it's not their fault. It's not our fault. It's the organization's fault. So not for nothing, I'm rooting for the strike. just to stick it to John Henry.
Like, they should have been like, we're going to go on strike if you trade Devers.
That would have been fantastic. That's part of the authorization deal.
Or heck, they could have at least, made viewing, feasible and traded him to San Diego straight up for Don.
Right.
Even though Don doesn't want to come back.
I don't blame Don. I love seeing Red Sox fans on X send clips to Don Arcello, saying love you, miss you. I think I've even done it. Commented on his post one time and he liked it, and I was just like, my heart is full. Like, just want to let you know, Don, miss you over here in Boston.
It's so bad when you have to make what is it, the unobstructed view with Pap and Carabas and like you got to make a second alternate because people can't stand your first choice to listen to the game.
Well, did you see the blowback O'Brien got on Friday night?
Mm-mm.
Oh, so when Aaron Judge hit that homer in the 9th inning to tie O'Brien sounded like he was working for the Yes Network, and I saw somebody tweet it and be like, blah 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 blah, and I was like, what? They obviously click play and listen to it, and it was like, it's back and it's gone, Yankee. Like, not that he was excited that the Yankees tied it up, but his voice sounded very excited. Where you're like, dude, you're on Nesson. This is the Yankees. Stop auditioning for ESPN. And again, at the end of at the same time too, I also don't want him to, and his ball's back and it's, it's a home run. Yankees tie the game. Like, I don't want that either. You have to put some emotion into it.
There's a happy medium,
absolutely. And that's the thing. Hell, I'm learning how to do that now, but
Heck, he could have sit there and said, and Aaron Judge finally gets a piece of a ball from Garrett Crochet. Do something where Crochet's been dominating them.
Yeah.
And so you're giving credit to the Red Sox, but Aaron Judge, it's gone. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You got to find a happy medium.
I know. And so it's like, it's just, and that's why, everything I think culminated on Sunday when you had hope. And that's the thing with, the Red Sox. I feel like every year I keep going into this, into the summer months, and every spring training, there's always this little bit of me, or not spring training, every opening day, there's always this piece of me that's like, maybe this year, like I have the hope, like I want to watch, like I'm gonna invest the time and I'm gonna do this, and then they just fall off the rails. They do something stupid where you're like, all right, I'm done. Wrap it up. Let's bring on training camp. Come on, New England. Let's go to Foxborough every week. I just, it's infuriating how this team that has been a part of Boston culture, and I've probably gone on my soapbox multiple times now, but still, like, this team means something, and we're left just going, what do I do now?
And what is ironic and horrible in the same sense is last month, everybody, including us, was talking about how horrible the AL East is. Yeah. And here we are a month later. We are, we wrap up all 3 spots in the wild card. We are a half game above Cleveland and Seattle, but, it's us, Tampa, and Toronto, all 3 spots for the wild card. And that's crazy. But there's a lot of baseball to be left played.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we were a fairly dominant team the first half of the year last year, and then we finish up the All-Star game, fly out to LA, and the wheels came off. So you're right. There is a lot of baseball left to be played, and I'm still gonna watch. It's going to be more spite watching than anything. I hope Devers absolutely annihilates us this weekend, just to stick it back. And I bet that's what he's looking forward to. But
it's gonna be a fun series to watch. Big Dom Smith out there. Are we going to get a BDSM moment or two? So
Big Dom Smith. But hey, well, Ritt, I just want to thank you, man. It's been great having you on. Great talking about Devers and the fallout, everything there, the organization. Listen, you're more than welcome to come on the show anytime. Let everybody know where they can follow you, how they can get in touch, and watch the Pesky podcast.
Yeah, our next episode's tomorrow night. We have Conrad Pascal on, who covers the San Francisco Giants. We're going to have a lot to be talking about with that series coming up. You follow us over on YouTube at BSEN_617. Also on Twitter, it is Pesky_podcast. We're on all platforms, iHeartRadio, Amazon, Apple, Spotify, you name it, we're there. And check out our merchandise, BSEN617.square.site. And get yourself a shirt or two.
Absolutely. Yeah, without a doubt. Well, hey, Ritt, man, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure. This is the Boston Sports Summit. I'm your host, Tim Barnard, for the Grid Network. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe, follow all social media platforms on the bottom at Boston Sports Summit. And, the Grid Network, we got a whole host of great shows there, too. So don't forget to give them a shout out as well. Well, once again, Ritt, thank you, man, for coming on. It's been a pleasure. God bless. And I hope everyone has a great rest of your week. Thank you.
Take care.